You don't find your soulmate by accident. You don't stumble upon them by chance. God is intentional, and when He writes your love story, it is crafted with wisdom, purpose, and divine alignment. Many people rush into relationships, chasing feelings instead of waiting for divine direction. But when God introduces you to your soulmate, it happens in a way that leaves no doubt. It is His perfect will. Today, we're going to uncover the powerful ways in which God prepares, guides, and finally reveals the person He has set apart for you. Get ready, because this message might just be the confirmation you've been praying for. When it comes to love and relationships, we often have our own plans, our own timelines, and our own ideas about how things should unfold. We make lists of what we want in a partner. We set deadlines for when we should be married, and we try to take control of the process. But God operates on a completely different level. His ways are higher than ours, and His timing is perfect. He is never late, never early, always right on time. When God is writing your love story, He works behind the scenes, arranging things in ways that you could never plan on your own. Many people grow frustrated when they don't meet the right person according to their own expectations. They wonder why God is delaying or if He has forgotten about them. But what they don't realize is that divine timing is not a delay, it is preparation. God knows the exact moment when you will be ready for the person He has chosen for you. He knows when you have matured enough to handle the responsibility of love. He knows when you have healed from past wounds and are ready to step into a healthy relationship. He sees what you cannot see. He understands the depths of your heart in ways you don't even understand yourself. One of the greatest mistakes people make is rushing ahead of God. They grow impatient and settle for relationships that were never meant for them. They force connections that God never approved. They try to make something work that was never designed to last. And in the end, they find themselves broken, disappointed, and wondering why things didn't work out. But the truth is, anything outside of God's timing will never bring true fulfillment. No matter how much you try to hold on to something that is not God's will, it will eventually fall apart. And even if it does last, it will never carry the depth, peace, and purpose that a relationship from God brings. God's timing is about more than just meeting the right person. It's about becoming the right person. Many people desire a soulmate, but they have not yet become the kind of person who can steward that blessing well. A healthy relationship requires emotional, spiritual, and mental maturity. It requires selflessness, patience, and a heart that is aligned with God's purpose. If God were to introduce you to your soulmate before you were ready, you might mishandle the gift. You might push them away, or worse, the relationship might turn into a distraction rather than a blessing. In the waiting season, God is refining you. He is teaching you how to love unconditionally. He is removing the insecurities, the fears, and the wounds of the past. He is deepening your faith, strengthening your character, and positioning you for what is to come. When you submit to His process, you allow Him to shape you into the person you need to be for the relationship He has ordained. Sometimes the weight feels unbearable. You see others getting married, starting families, and stepping into relationships, and you wonder when your time will come. But comparison is one of the enemy's greatest tactics to make you doubt God's timing. Just because someone else is in a relationship doesn't mean they are in the right one. Just because someone else has found love doesn't mean they are experiencing the love God intended for them. If you rush ahead just because you feel like you're being left behind, you will miss the beauty of what God is preparing for you. One of the most powerful things about divine timing is that when it happens, everything flows effortlessly. You don't have to strive, force, or manipulate situations. When God introduces you to your soulmate, things align naturally. there is peace, there is clarity, there is confirmation. You won't have to beg someone to love you. You won't have to question whether or not they are the one. God's plan is never rooted in confusion. He brings two people together in such a way that they both know it is Him. God's timing also protects you from unnecessary heartbreak. If you had met your soulmate too early, you might have been in a season where you were not spiritually or emotionally mature enough to handle that connection. God's delays are not punishments, they are acts of love. He is keeping you from relationships that would pull you away from Him. He is preventing you from settling for less than what He has designed. He is making sure that when you do meet your soulmate, you are both in the right place, at the right time, with the right mindset. There are countless stories of people who have waited on God's timing and in the end realize that the wait was worth it. They look back and see how God was orchestrating everything perfectly. They see how He used their single season to build them, to grow them, and to prepare them for the relationship they were meant to have. And when it finally happened, it was far greater than anything they could have imagined. God is a God of purpose. He is a God of order. He does not do things randomly. He is not in a hurry, and He is not moved by human pressure. When He brings two people together, it is for a reason greater than themselves. A godly relationship is not just about companionship. It is about calling. Your soulmate is not just someone to love. They are someone who will push you closer to God. Someone who will walk with you in purpose. Someone who will partner with you in the assignment God has placed on your life. Before God introduces you to your soulmate, He first prepares you. Many people pray for the right person to come into their lives, but they do not realize that God is more concerned about who they are becoming than simply giving them what they ask for. A relationship from God is not just about love, it is about purpose. He will never bring someone into your life prematurely if it means you are not yet ready to handle the weight of that blessing. God's preparation is not a delay. It is an act of love, ensuring that when you do meet the person He has set apart for you, you will be in a position to steward that relationship with wisdom, grace, and maturity. God's preparation begins with self-discovery. Before you can love someone else in a way that honors God, you must first understand who you are in Him. Many people enter relationships looking for another person to complete them, to fill their emptiness, or to validate their worth. But God does not send a soulmate to fix you. He first works on making you whole in Him. If you are not secure in your identity, you will always look for love to fill a void that only God can fill. This is why some people move from relationship to relationship, searching for something that no human can provide. God prepares you by teaching you that your worth is not found in another person, but in Him alone. Another aspect of God's preparation is healing. Many people carry wounds from their past, whether from childhood, past relationships, disappointments, or personal failures. If these wounds are not addressed, they can become barriers to the love that God wants to bring into your life. Unhealed pain leads to insecurity, fear, and trust issues. If you have not fully healed, you may sabotage a good relationship out of fear of being hurt again. This is why God takes time to heal your heart before introducing you to your soulmate. He may take you through a season of solitude where He teaches you how to rely on Him for emotional and spiritual healing. This process is not always easy, but it is necessary. The love God has for you is too great to let you enter a relationship burdened by past pain. During this season of preparation, God also refines your character. Love is not just about attraction. It requires patience, kindness, selflessness, and humility. Many people focus on what they want in a partner, but fail to ask themselves if they are becoming the kind of person who can sustain a healthy relationship. A godly relationship is not about receiving love, it is about giving it. This is why God teaches you how to love the way He loves. He may place you in situations where you must learn forgiveness, even when it is difficult. He may teach you patience by making you wait longer than you expected. He may refine your humility by showing you areas of pride that need to be surrendered. God's goal is not just to bring you love, but to make you capable of loving well. One of the most powerful ways God prepares you for your soulmate is by aligning your purpose. A relationship from God is not just about romance, it is about calling. Your soulmate is not just someone who makes you happy, they are someone who helps you walk in your divine assignment. This means that before you meet them, God will guide you toward discovering your purpose. He will clarify your vision, refine your gifts, and place you in environments where you can grow. Many people enter relationships without a clear sense of purpose, and as a result, they become dependent on their partner for direction. But when you are rooted in your own God-given assignment, your relationship becomes a partnership rather than a dependency. You and your soulmate will not only love each other, you will strengthen each other in fulfilling the mission God has placed on your lives. Sometimes, God prepares you by removing distractions. There may be people in your life who are not meant to be there, relationships that are holding you back, friendships that are not pushing you closer to God, or habits that are keeping you stuck. When God is preparing you for your soulmate, He will often lead you to let go of these things. This can be painful, especially if you have grown attached to people or situations that feel familiar. But what you must understand is that God never removes anything without a greater purpose. He is not just taking something away, He is making room for something better. This season of preparation also teaches you how to trust God. Many people struggle with waiting because they want control. They want to know when, where, and how they will meet their soulmate. But God rarely gives those details up front. Instead, He asks you to trust Him. He asks you to walk by faith, believing that He is working even when you cannot see it. This is where spiritual growth happens. Faith is not about understanding everything. It is about believing that God's plan is better than yours. When you trust Him fully, you stop stressing about timelines and start resting in His promises. One of the greatest blessings of God's preparation is that it builds contentment. When you are in a season of waiting, it is easy to feel frustrated or discouraged. But when you shift your perspective, you begin to see that this is not a time of lack, it is a time of growth. Instead of focusing on what you don't have, you start focusing on what God is doing in you. You begin to enjoy your own company, to strengthen your relationship with God, and to live with purpose, regardless of your relationship status. This kind of contentment is powerful because it means that when your soulmate does arrive, you are not looking to them to make you happy. You are already full in God, and your relationship becomes an addition to your joy, not the source of it. Ultimately, God's preparation is His way of protecting you. He knows what you need before you do. He sees the future you cannot see. He understands the depths of your heart and what will truly fulfill you. This is why He takes time to refine you before introducing you to your soulmate. When you surrender to this process, you are not just waiting, you are growing. You are becoming the kind of person who can receive and sustain the love that God has for you. And when the right person does come into your life, you will be able to look back and see that every step of the journey was necessary. When God is ready to introduce you to your soulmate, He often leads you to a place of complete surrender. This means letting go of your own timelines, expectations, and ideas of how love should happen. Many people try to control their love story, thinking that if they plan everything perfectly, they will meet the right person at the right time. But God does not operate on human schedules. He does not follow the world's logic when it comes to relationships. Instead, he calls you to trust him, to release your grip on what you think is best, and to allow him to write your story in his own perfect way. Surrendering to God's plan does not mean being passive. It does not mean sitting back and doing nothing while waiting for love to arrive. Rather, it means actively trusting God, living in obedience to his will, and focusing on your personal growth. It means being content in the season you are in, rather than constantly searching for the next chapter. Many people delay their own blessings because they are so fixated on what they do not have. They spend their days longing for a relationship, comparing themselves to others and feeling discouraged when things do not happen on their timeline. But surrendering to God's plan means shifting your focus. Instead of obsessing over when your soulmate will come, you begin to focus on what God is doing in your life right now. This surrender requires faith. Faith that God is good. Faith that he sees you, knows you, and has not forgotten about your desires. Faith that he is working behind the scenes, even when you do not see any progress. The journey of faith is often tested in seasons of waiting. It is easy to believe in God's plan when everything is happening quickly, when doors are opening, and when love is falling into place effortlessly. But real faith is tested in the moments when nothing seems to be happening, when it feels like everyone else is finding their person while you are still alone, when you pray and see no immediate answers, when you wonder if God has overlooked your heart's desire. It is in these moments that true surrender is developed. God often asks for surrender because he wants your heart to be fully aligned with him before he brings someone else into your life. If your heart is too attached to your own plans, you may resist the person God is trying to bring you. Sometimes, the reason love has not arrived yet is not because God is not working. It is because your heart is still holding on to something that is not aligned with his will. It could be an old relationship that you have not fully let go of. It could be a dream of how you expected love to happen, which is preventing you from seeing what God is actually doing. It could be fear, insecurity, or doubt that is blocking you from fully receiving what he has for you. When you truly surrender, you begin to see relationships differently. You stop seeing love as something you need in order to be complete. You stop measuring your worth by whether or not you are in a relationship. Instead, you start seeing love as a blessing, a partnership, and an extension of what God is already doing in your life. You realize that your soulmate is not coming to fill an emptiness within you. They are coming to complement the fullness you have already found in God. This shift in perspective is powerful because it frees you from the pressure of trying to force love to happen. You no longer feel the need to chase after relationships or settle for less than what God has for you. Instead, you rest in the truth that the right person will come at the right time, according to God's perfect plan. Surrendering to God's plan also means being open to his timing. God is never late, and he is never early. He knows exactly when to bring your soulmate into your life, but his timing often does not match human expectations. Sometimes people expect to be married by a certain age or to meet their soulmate within a specific time frame. When things do not happen according to their expectations, they become discouraged, thinking that something is wrong. But God does not operate according to human clocks. He operates according to divine purpose. If he is asking you to wait, it is not because he is punishing you. It is because he is preparing something far greater than you can imagine. One of the most beautiful things about surrendering to God's plan is that it brings peace. When you truly let go and trust him, you no longer feel anxious about your future. You stop worrying about when and how things will happen. You stop stressing over whether you will meet the right person. Instead, you live in a place of deep peace knowing that your life is in God's hands. You wake up each day with confidence, not because you have all the answers, but because you know that the one who holds your future is faithful. This peace allows you to be fully present in your life. It allows you to enjoy your current season rather than constantly wishing for the next one. Many people waste years of their lives feeling frustrated about what they do not have instead of embracing what they do have. They spend so much time waiting for love that they miss the blessings that are already in front of them. But when you surrender to God's plan, you begin to see that life is not just about waiting for love. It is about growing, serving, and becoming the person God has called you to be. Surrendering to God's plan does not mean that everything will happen the way you expect. It does not mean that you will never face disappointments or challenges in your journey to finding love. But it does mean that you can trust that whatever happens, God is in control. It means that even when things do not go the way you planned, you can have confidence that God's plan is still unfolding perfectly. It means that even if you face delays, detours, or unexpected changes, you can rest in the assurance that nothing is out of His hands. When you surrender, you stop trying to force things. You stop worrying about whether you are enough, whether you are lovable, or whether you will ever meet the right person. Instead, you start trusting that God is leading you exactly where you need to be. You start living with joy, knowing that every step of your journey is a part of His divine design. And when the time is right, when you have been fully prepared, and when your heart is in perfect alignment with His will, God will introduce you to your soulmate in a way that is beyond anything you could have planned for yourself. You will look back and see that every delay, every closed door, and every moment of waiting was not a punishment, it was preparation. You will see that God was never withholding love from you. He was shaping you, protecting you, and guiding you toward the kind of relationship that is worth the wait. And when that moment comes, you will know, without a doubt, that it was God's hand that brought you together. You will understand that surrendering to His plan was the best decision you ever made. And you will walk forward, hand in hand with the one He has chosen for you, knowing that your love story was written by the one who loves you most. When God prepares you to meet your soulmate, He first works within you. This process often begins with refining your heart, molding your character, and ensuring that you are in a place where you can receive the blessing He is preparing for you. Many people desire love, but they are not yet ready for the kind of love that God wants to give them. They carry wounds from the past, insecurities that have not been addressed, and mindsets that could damage a healthy relationship. Before God introduces you to your soulmate, He takes you through a season of personal transformation, shaping you into the person who is ready to love and be loved in the way He intends. This transformation often happens in unexpected ways. God may allow situations that challenge your patience, test your faith, or force you to confront areas of your heart that need healing. He may bring people into your life who help you see things you need to change, or He may remove people who are hindering your growth. Sometimes the delays and disappointments you experience are not meant to frustrate you. They are meant to prepare. God does not just want you to find love. He wants you to find love that lasts, love that reflects His goodness, love that glorifies Him. And for that to happen, you must first become the kind of person who can build and sustain a God-centered relationship. One of the ways God prepares you is by teaching you how to love yourself the way He loves you. Many people enter relationships hoping that another person will complete them, fill their emptiness, or heal their brokenness. But true love does not come from another person. It comes from God. Until you learn to see yourself the way He sees you, to embrace the love He has for you, and to walk in the confidence of His purpose, you will always look for love in places where it cannot truly be found. God wants you to enter your future relationship from a place of wholeness, not brokenness. He wants you to know that your worth is not based on whether or not you are in a relationship. Your value is determined by Him alone. And when you embrace that truth, you stop settling for relationships that do not align with His will. You stop chasing after love that is not meant for you. You learn to wait, trust, and believe that what He has for you is far greater than anything you could create on your own. God also prepares you by strengthening your faith. A God-ordained relationship requires a strong foundation of faith, and before He brings you to your soulmate, He ensures that you are rooted in Him. He allows you to go through seasons where you must trust Him completely, where you must rely on Him instead of your own understanding. In these seasons, you may not always see what He is doing, but He is strengthening your trust in Him. He is teaching you how to depend on His timing, how to let go of your fears, and how to surrender your love story to Him. Faith is not just about believing that God will bring the right person. It is about believing that His plan is perfect, even when you do not understand it. This season of preparation may also involve healing. Many people carry wounds from past relationships, childhood experiences, or moments of rejection that still impact how they view love. If these wounds are not addressed, they can create barriers in a future relationship. Fear of abandonment, trust issues, and emotional walls can prevent a person from fully opening their heart to the one God has for them. Because God desires to give you a love that is healthy and whole, He first takes the time to heal the parts of your heart that have been broken. He reveals the areas where you need to grow, helps you release the pain of the past, and replaces your fears with His peace. This healing process is not always easy. It requires confronting emotions that you may have buried. It requires surrendering your pain to God and allowing Him to restore you from the inside out. But as you go through this process, you begin to see a change within yourself. You start to let go of the things that once held you back. You stop carrying the weight of past heartbreaks. You learn to trust again, to hope again, and to love from a place of security in God rather than insecurity in yourself. And when the time is right, when God knows you are truly ready, He brings someone into your life who complements the transformation He has done in you. When God is leading you toward your soulmate, one of the most powerful ways He works is by positioning you in the right place at the right time. Many people believe that meeting the right person is purely a matter of chance, but nothing about God's plan is accidental. He is always orchestrating events, aligning paths, and creating divine appointments that will lead you to the person He has chosen for you. His timing is never rushed, nor is it delayed. It is always perfect, designed to bring you into alignment with His purpose for your life and for your future relationship. This process of divine positioning often begins long before you are even aware of it. God may lead you to certain places, introduce you to certain people, or open doors that seem unrelated to your love life, but are actually steps toward your destiny. You may feel a strong pull to relocate, to join a particular community, or to step into a new role that challenges you. At the time, you may not understand why He is leading you in a specific direction, but later, you realize that every step was part of a divine setup. One of the ways God positions you is by creating moments of obedience in your life. He may place an idea in your heart, prompting you to make a move that does not immediately make sense. It could be a change in career, an unexpected relocation, or even something as simple as attending an event you never planned to go to. Often people resist these nudges, thinking they are just random thoughts, but those who trust God and follow His leading eventually see His plan unfold in ways they never expected. When you look back, you realize that if you had ignored those promptings, you might have missed the opportunity to meet the person God was preparing for you. God also uses delays and detours to position you correctly. Sometimes when things are not happening as quickly as you want them to, it is because God is ensuring that both you and your future spouse are in the right place at the right time. You may experience setbacks that feel frustrating, jobs that do not work out, doors that seem to close, plans that do not come together the way you envisioned. But in hindsight, you realize that every no was actually a redirection towards something better. If God had allowed things to happen on your timeline, you may have ended up in the wrong place, with the wrong person, or in a relationship that was not aligned with your destiny. This divine positioning also involves removing distractions and unnecessary attachments. Many times people hold on to relationships, friendships, or situations that are not serving their purpose simply because they are afraid of letting go. But when God is preparing you to meet your soulmate, He often requires you to release what is not meant for you. He knows that holding on to the wrong things can block you from receiving the right things. You may not realize it at the moment, but sometimes the people you think are good for you are actually keeping you from the best that God has for you. When God begins to shift things in your life, it may feel uncomfortable. You may feel a sudden desire to leave a familiar place, to step away from people who once felt like home, or to change directions in a way that does not seem logical. But when you trust Him, you will see that He is not taking anything away from you. He is making space for what is truly meant for you. He is aligning you with the right people, the right opportunities, and ultimately the right person who will complement your life in a way only He could orchestrate. In this process, patience is essential. Many people miss God's best because they become impatient and try to force things to happen on their own. They grow tired of waiting and settle for relationships that are convenient rather than relationships that are ordained. But forcing something to happen outside of God's timing can lead to unnecessary heartache and struggle. The key is to trust that He is working behind the scenes, even when you do not see any visible signs of progress. God's positioning is not just about physical location, it is also about spiritual readiness. He does not just place you in the right environment, He places you in the right mindset. He ensures that you are prepared mentally, emotionally, and spiritually to receive the love He has for you. Many people ask God to bring them their soulmate, but they are not yet in a place where they can nurture and sustain a healthy relationship. God loves you too much to give you something you are not ready for. So He takes His time to refine you before bringing you into alignment with your future spouse. One of the greatest signs that God is positioning you for your soulmate is when He starts aligning your desires with His will. You may notice a shift in what you want, in what you prioritize, and in what you are willing to wait for. The things that once seemed important may lose their appeal, and the things of God will become more significant in your life. This is not a coincidence. It is a sign that God is shaping your heart to recognize and appreciate the kind of love He has prepared for you. When the time is right, God will make the connection seamless. You will not have to strive, manipulate, or stress about making it happen. The doors will open naturally, conversations will flow effortlessly, and there will be a deep sense of peace that confirms this is the person He has chosen for you. Divine positioning means that when you meet your soulmate, everything will feel aligned, not because it is perfect or without challenges, but because it is ordained by God. You may not know how or when it will happen, but trust that God is positioning you right now. Every step you take, every season you go through, and every decision you make is leading you closer to the moment when your path will cross with the one He has for you. Stay faithful. Stay obedient. Keep your heart open. And when the time comes, you will look back and see that God's plan was unfolding perfectly all along. When God introduces you to your soulmate, one of the clearest signs is the peace that comes with it. This is not the kind of peace that the world gives, the temporary relief of emotions or the absence of conflict. This is a deep, undeniable peace that settles in your heart and reassures you that this is the right person, at the right time, in the right way. It is a peace that surpasses understanding, a knowing that does not come from human logic but from the Spirit of God. It does not come with confusion, fear, or second-guessing. It is a peace that silences the noise of doubt and allows you to move forward with confidence in what God is doing. This peace is not something that can be manufactured or forced. Many people enter relationships where they feel excitement, attraction, or even compatibility, but something inside them still feels unsettled. They try to convince themselves that it is the right relationship, but deep down they know there is a lingering uneasiness. That uneasiness is often God's way of protecting them from making a decision outside of His will. When you are about to step into a relationship that is not meant for you, there will always be signs, red flags, a sense of restlessness, or an inner voice that whispers, "This is not it." It is easy to ignore these signs, especially when emotions are involved, but ignoring them often leads to regret. But when God brings your soulmate into your life, that feeling of uneasiness is replaced with peace. Even if there are challenges to work through, even if everything does not look perfect on the outside, there is still a quiet assurance inside you that this relationship is different. It does not feel forced. It does not feel like something you have to chase, manipulate, or struggle to hold on to. It flows naturally because it is orchestrated by God, and what He brings together, He sustains. One of the reasons this peace is so powerful is because it confirms alignment with God's will. When you are walking in step with His plan, there is no need for anxiety or fear. He does not operate in confusion. If you are constantly questioning, doubting, or feeling unsettled in a relationship, it may be a sign that something is not right. But when you are in the right relationship, even in uncertain moments, there is still a deep trust in your heart that God is in control. This does not mean that everything will be easy or that you will never face difficulties, but it does mean that God's presence will be evident, guiding and strengthening you both. This peace also extends beyond your personal feelings. It is often confirmed by those around you. When God is at work, He provides confirmation through trusted people in your life. Your friends, family, and spiritual mentors may recognize the hand of God in your relationship even before you fully do. They may see qualities in this person that align with your purpose, your calling, and your future. They may notice how this person brings out the best in you, how they push you closer to God rather than pulling you away. These confirmations serve as another layer of peace, reassuring you that this is not just something you want, but something that is truly God ordained. However, it is important to note that peace does not mean the absence of all challenges. A God-ordained relationship is still a relationship that requires work, growth, and commitment. There may be moments of disagreement, moments of testing, moments where you have to lean on God to navigate through certain issues. But even in those moments, the foundation of peace remains. The difference between a God-ordained relationship and one that is not is that even in difficulty, there is an inner assurance that this is worth fighting for. There is no panic, no despair, no deep fear that the relationship will fall apart at the first sign of trouble. Instead, there is a confidence that God is holding it together. Many people rush into relationships out of loneliness, pressure, or impatience, and in doing so, they sacrifice the peace that comes with waiting on God. They settle for relationships that bring temporary happiness but lack the deep, sustaining peace that comes from being in alignment with God's plan. They feel the weight of uncertainty, the burden of making things work on their own, and the stress of trying to hold on to something that was never meant to be. But when you wait on God, you do not have to force anything. His blessings do not come with sorrow. What He gives, He strengthens. What He builds, He sustains. This peace is also a reminder that God's love is the foundation of a true soulmate connection. A relationship that is built on God's love will not be driven by fear, insecurity, or selfishness. It will be a reflection of His character, marked by patience, kindness, faithfulness, and grace. When God brings two people together, He does not just unite them in emotion, He unites them in spirit. There is a depth to the connection that cannot be explained in human terms. It is a connection that draws both people closer to God, rather than distracting them from Him. In today's world, many people chase after relationships that are built on superficial things: status, appearance, convenience. But when God is the one writing your love story, He writes it with eternity in mind. He does not just give you a partner. He gives you someone who will walk with you in faith, challenge you to grow, and stand beside you through every season of life. This is why His peace is so important. It is a divine confirmation that what He is doing in your life is good, that it is right, and that it is blessed.